We're going live because it's showtime.
All right.
Hi, everybody. Functional here with my co-host Genty Maxi, and we are here to waste some time, entertain. I don't know.
And Elwin
Why the
says,
fuck are you here, crazy people?
Elwin says, time for the airing of grievances. This may take a while. Stand by.
My grievances? Jen's grievances? Your
Maybe?
grievances? The grievances of the political state?
It was the guy we already discussed.
Oh, that coffee's good.
We decided to pin the blame on the underpants gnomes, Elwin. You know, the ones from that one kid's house in South Park, you know, the parents that are
my grievances.
Ah.
I get it now, because today's just been a cursed day of me and technology and nothing working right. OBS, some other Windows problems I was having. Now with Chrome, and most recently the coffee maker decided to not fully work for me. So it's just been one of those days with those technological problems.
You know, that's kind of why I gave up yesterday too. It was like, so I did go to that funeral,
and
it was really good. I didn't expect to cry, but I ended up crying, which I'm blaming that on hormones, regardless of whether or not it was my hormones. Because like I'd started off just in this really nice frame of mind, like, you know, the guy was a really good person, you know, he had a good life, you know, the room was full of people, you know, so obviously he was loved.
Yeah.
I'd met a bunch of old neighbors that I hadn't seen since I was a little kid, so that was really fun, like, you know, seeing them as an adult and talking to them as an adult. I met my neighbor's kid for the first time, and he's always been the older boy. And I told him to his face that you were the mystery kid that your parents always said nice things about, but I had no idea who you were. And I was just like, one of these days I'll meet this guy.
Old enough so that he was like away from the nest.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like I think by the time I'd met him, I was probably about 5 or 6, and he would have been in high school. So, like, any interactions that I had with him at that point, like, you know, he was in college within the next year, you know, and after that point, he was just out of the home a lot. And, you know, I moved out of my home as soon as I grew up, and, you know, I just never really met the guy. And it was kind of funny that way. And I said, you know, I never really heard anything bad about you from your parents. It was always good stuff. And I always just hoped that one day I would see you in passing and be like, oh, okay, so that's who you are, you know. I didn't talk to the younger sibling. Like his younger brother was more friends with my brother. Like they had a falling out like years ago, but you know, they're both adults now, and you know, you still reflect on your memories of your childhood. And like my brother's memories of their dad is their dad was very strict and my brother was very naughty, and he doesn't like to admit that he was very naughty. But on their behalf, I have to say, though, I babysat their dog for a month a couple years ago, and they had 4 of these trees that had the bottoms empty, you know, like just those really kind of pine trees that are like a house to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they were lined up to so close to each other that literally all you needed to do was maybe drape like a blanket over one or like a tarp or something, and you would have the perfect tree for it. Like no effort needed.
Okay.
Kind of tree for it. And I was just like, how did it not drive you guys nuts when you were kids? Like, I didn't mention this to him at the time, you know, I was like, you know, time and place, but I'd had this conversation with his older sister. And Joanne's great. Like, she's got 2 kids, and, you know, she's what made me cry. Like, her part of the speech is what made me cry, because it was like, you know, on her behalf, she just lost her dad. So regardless of whether or not it was his time, it's still never enough time when you're a kid. But, you know, I was just looking at him like with total sympathy in my head, because as a creative child, I would have taken one look at that little spot and been like, here's a little space of my own little world that you could create in your own head. You know, bring over some friends to have tea, or, you know, if you're a guy, you play your guy friends stuff or whatever. And it was always one of those conversations I planned to have with the middle child, because he resented me a little. And on his behalf, I wanted to explain it wasn't my fault. I did not want to hang out with my brother during that age group. I wasn't actually interested in that. It was just that there was nobody else my age on the block, and everybody else on the block was a boy and my brother's age. So if they wanted an extra person,
Scotty.
an extra person to play hockey, I was the only other person. So if you didn't like how I played, or if you didn't tell me what it was you wanted me to do, I didn't do it. And so my brother was complaining, and I was like, but you guys didn't get anything into the net. You made me the goalie. That was the plan. You were like, well, she's the girl. We don't really want her to play, so we'll put her in as the goalie. And I'm like, what's the job of the goalie? To keep stuff from getting in. So if I'm keeping it from getting in and you're hitting me with a stick, then I've already accomplished my job. You're supposed to stop hitting me with a stick. That's usually when the guy who's in charge stops you and you get a penalty. And Chris is like, well, yeah, but that made it not fun. And I was like, well, then you should have switched me to another spot then, shouldn't you? You put the guy who sucks at goalie in then as a goalie. Like that's not how the game works.
Thing was, when I was a kid, I was always the goalie because it was quick. I have quick arms, quick legs. It was kind of got those spindly arms. So it didn't matter how good any of the rest of the players were, they could never score on me.
That's kind of how it was, because like I was stretchy and I was very like I could do the splits like super quick, like I was at that age group where doing that kind of stuff was really easy, and I was into gymnastics, so it was really easy. So like doing that kind of thing wasn't hard. It was mostly, I think the thing is as a younger girl, they probably wanted to be able to push me over.
Mm-hmm.
And because of my age and the fact that, I was a girl, you're not going to do that to your friend's sister. And I think that's where the resentment was. It was just, and I was like, well, that's still your fault. Because you could have put me in a different position. I mean, I might not have been a good player, but you could have put me in a different position. Like if you just wanted to have a kid that you could push over so you could get a goal, then you got to pick the kid in your group who's gonna make that match. And I think he knew I was just smart enough to know that, but I was like, bro, I'm just not gonna hang out with you. Like that's just all it is. I just wanted to play some games with them. I didn't necessarily want to play all games with them. It was just like, if you're building a tree fort, bring me over. I'll help build a tree fort. If you want to play sports, you play your sports. Because if you're afraid of running me over, then don't run me over. Like you either set it up so that I can handle that, you show me how to, or you set me up so I can handle it, or I just don't do it. And I think when you're young and you're that level of understanding of things, a lot of kids don't understand that. I'd learned from past mistakes, even at the age of 7, on things that you shouldn't do for reasons like that. And other kids don't understand why you don't want to like set yourself up to hurt yourself.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, it's also like before you as a child learn about learning, like you learn because that's just our genetics. That's our species. We learn as we grow up, but it's not that notion of, oh, this is what learning is. So they just throw you into a position thinking, okay, well, I know what the rules of hockey are, so they will know what the rules of hockey are. And yeah. I totally get you on that.
And the other thing too is it could also be like, because guy friends will have their own rules too. Like, it's not that they don't know the rules of the game, but they will have
house rules, like you would have with like board games or card games, or even pickup games like hockey or basketball. There's always those house rules that, again, they don't tell you, and they just assume that you know what they will be.
So I mean, there could have been a miscommunication there as well. I was just like, for me, if you're going to play a guy game with me, I was more into the mental games. Like if you wanted to do something like a Risk, where you set up like a scenario kind of game through, I was really good for that, because that was the kind of stuff I was really into. Like I actually really liked Transformers.
And so you were familiar with it, yeah.
Oh yeah, I love Transformers. I was into the original Thundercats. I was into G.I. Joe. I really only liked 2 girl shows, and it was mostly
Gem and the Holograms.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
No,
Like
My
I did
Little Pony,
My Little Pony. I did, but I didn't. The thing
Strawberry
with both,
Shortcake.
no, no.
Fuck, I'm running out of ideas here.
Yeah, it was just
She-Ra.
two. No.
Damn.
She-Ra
Who's the other
actually
one?
didn't hit with me. She-Ra I liked more when I was older. Like looking back, it was like you know, if I'd been older watching this, like 8 or 9 watching it, I probably would have been right into it. But I was a little bit too young at 6 to really understand what she was talking about. So it was just like she was pretty, but like I'd already seen that before. And then
Okay, so what was the other show?
So Gem, it was between Gem and My Little Pony. So between My Little Pony, I only really liked it because they were horses.
Oh, okay.
You know, I look back and like the age group, you know, because I liked Robert. You remember Rabbit Ship Down? I think it was called the dark, scary cartoon.
No.
Uh,
Rabbit Ship Down. I've never
I think
heard of that.
I've got that name down. It's completely wrong. Watership Down. Watership Down.
No.
Okay, I will. Oh, it is a dark cartoon. It is a super dark cartoon. Oh,
you know what? Now that 1978. Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, I do recognize the animation. I probably haven't seen it since I was a very small child.
I highly recommend watching it because the story is based off of like a Macbeth.
Yeah.
With the rabbits, and it gets downright dirty. Like there's death, like they kill each other. You know, there's a hawk that kills a rabbit. There's a cat that kills a rabbit.
Yeah. I think I remember that.
It's not entirely graphic, but it's graphic enough to spook you out.
Yeah, that's why I was always drawn to cartoons like An American Tail.
Yeah,
that got pretty serious. And
the original one was amazing.
And as you get older, you sort of realize, wow, this was for kids.
Yeah.
I mean, now that I fully comprehend what's going on, but as a kid, you really don't know the larger pictures here. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's you know, they always kind of did that because you know, you have parents watching the cartoons with the kids.
Yeah, Linz, just grab the link if it's still live. Hop on in.
Oh, hey, Lindsay.
Somebody decided to wake up.
Yeah, we're talking about Watership Down. I highly recommend. Maybe one of these days we'll do a movie review or something. Like, obviously we can't do it on YouTube because YouTube sucks for stuff like that. But like DLive, I can do one.
Oh, we did. I was with Frosted Glasses.
Oh yeah.
We do. He does one every Friday evening. Right after Lords of the Night, and we watched some Mystery Science Theater 3000. Oh God, I think it was just called Santa Claus. It was horrible movie. My brain.
God, I gotta tell you this. I gotta interrupt you just for a second. But my mom, when I visited her to make those cookies, I found out my mom has a Bible book based off of shows that she's watched over the last 4 years. So she's kept track of every Christmas movie she's watched since the last 4 years, and this is on cable TV. So she's got the names, she's got the actors. You know, she's discovered that they recycle actors and stories, and I was just like, that's why I don't watch Christmas movies, Mom. You know why Die Hard is amazing is because it's not a typical Christmas movie
or any Shane Black movie. Yeah.
You know. But you know, I watched 3 of them with her last year.
Oh no, Elwyn's gonna get me to sing because there are no cats in America, and the streets are paved with cheese.
It was a great movie. Yeah, we should definitely do that one of these days. We'll pick one of these old cartoons. Like I highly recommend trying the Watership Down because, like I said, it will give you some. It is a cartoon, so it's easier to watch now. But like, you know, reflecting back on it, it was really scary.
I wonder if it's public domain by now, or what the copyrights surrounding it is. Because there are certain films that are public domain. There's other films that are license free, so that you can actually watch them in public and stuff for, you know, completely on the level. Hey, Lindsay, how you doing?
Sup, guys?
We're just, you know, the bantering.
And I wasn't asleep, by the way. I was
I know.
actually in the middle of watching Star Wars, the good Star Wars.
I know. I was just poking fun.
See, oh, they did do a remake of it. Well, I don't mind watching the remake of it, but the original, like I said, the original just it was scary.
Yeah, I think the BBC remade it.
We're talking about Watership Down, Lindsay. I don't know.
Oh, I think I've heard of it.
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm raving about it like I'm, but like I said, it was one of those things. I was a daycare kid, so one of those things when you're a daycare kid is your parents have absolutely no idea what cartoons they let you watch, and half the time the daycare people don't watch what it is that they're letting you watch. So like we'd go from like the Transformers movie, which I mean I wasn't traumatized by it, but there were certainly enough boys old enough to watch that for the first time. You're like, wow, they killed like every character I loved in that movie. But Watership Down was one of those sneaky ones because like you watch the first 3.5 minutes and they tell you this like Native American style story about this rabbit who was very versatile and he had all these natural resources to himself. Like he could hear, he was fast, he was a quick digger. He was very, very smart. And he was this little troublemaker who would just start shit with all the other animals. So the great creator was like, okay, listen, asshole, like if you don't tone it down, I'm going to make things harder for you. And so like the story goes on with the rabbit not paying attention because, like he's so great, what's going to happen? He's so great. And, he populates the forest so much that there's all these troublemakers everywhere and they're all causing problems for the other animals. So the great creator changes all the other animals. So like everything's wanting to eat the rabbit now. And so the rabbit's no longer able to defend himself and he's completely fucked. And so the creator's like, okay, well, I kind of feel bad now. So I'm going to throw you a bone and give you the ability to hear, not just hear well, but hear excellently well. And you can run and you can make all your homes under the ground. And, it's just there's within the first 3.5 minutes, you're just like, what is this movie about?
And I'm going to change things up a little bit because speaking about being a kid, I think it was on Bloodwing stream. We were talking about used military vehicles at some point.
Transformers.
And you could buy disarmed but used vehicles like tanks and stuff. They wouldn't be road compliant or anything, but you could still get them. And it took me down this rabbit hole of what kind of weird vehicles you could buy that are actually road viable. And I found this for used fire trucks.
Wow.
You can actually buy used fire trucks fully working. They have the pumpers, everything like that. As you can see in some of the pictures, most of them still have their sirens and lights, which here you can technically have, you just can never turn them on because you're not a proper first responder, right? And so as I was a kid, I never really wanted to be a fireman per se, but I've always had mad respect, even as a little kid, for the first responders, for these guys, the paramedics and the cops. Even though I might not have had the best of track record running into them, I always had mad respect for the institution of the police. And I think more than anything, I did want to be some kind of serviceman, but not in the fire or medical rescue. So what that was basically,
my autism is just tweaking me here because it's just like I get why you're passionate about it, but there's no like, what are you going to use it for? Other than driving it around and being like, look, I'm cool.
And wasting a whole lot of gas. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I would never, even if I had the money, I probably wouldn't ever buy one.
Yeah.
If I had a mansion, if I had my ideal castle, I might buy one and put it in the front lawn somewhere.
That would be amazing. Functionally, you could be like, hey, honey, I'm watering the garden.
Well, that's the thing. That was what I was literally going to say that next and turn it into the watering device for the garden. Obviously, the pressure would have to be turned down and, replace the hoses, but I still think it would be kind of cool. And, I just thought it was kind of funny that you could, waste 50 grand and buy a used fire truck or a pumper for almost 200 grand US. Like, that'd be kind of awesome.
At least it's funny. At least it's amusing me with the water in the garden thing. Like, you could do it from anywhere you want. You could just.
Well, I wouldn't just leave it there to rust. If I bought something, I'm a very practical person. So if I bought something, I would want to repurpose it in some way, like using it as a sprinkler system, or do something with it. I don't know. And when Elwin gets pissed off, I get to drink from the fire hose. Instead, Spadowski's clubhouse.
Oh God, I was just thinking of that too. Like, you get to drink from the fire hose.
Yeah. Yay! Oh my God, that movie was so. I still love that movie.
See, what you do is you get one of those, and then you buy a lot with a lot of space, and then you make the world's greatest slip and slide.
That would be awesome.
Ooh, I like that idea.
A seasonal, like, world's best slip and slide, and you got the fire truck to just push people along water-wise. Aww.
Yeah, speaking of creating things and the uprising of the animal kingdom, I don't know about you guys down there in the United States, Lindsay, but we're having a problem with piglets up here. Wild pigs they're breeding like crazy. They're destroying. They're over consuming.
Yeah.
And these ones have been ingenious enough to start building pigloos to insulate themselves from cold weather.
Yep.
I'm not even kidding.
Wow.
I saw, like I do with most articles that are kind of like just what the fuckish. I'll do a little bit more research. And this is a thing. This is an actual thing. They're adapting to the severe cold and snowstorms that we're having up here in the southern Canadian area. And these pigs are surviving even longer, adding to the problem of them over consuming and not really having very, very much in the way of natural predators. Trudeau, stop trying to take our guns. We need to kill the piglets. I don't care how cute they are. They taste delicious.
Bring home the bacon.
I do think they're adorable, but I just have to go back to an old comment because I totally didn't read that one, Scotty, so I'm really sorry. But it wasn't ice hockey that I was playing with my brother's friends. It was street hockey. So I mean, I wasn't even on rollerblades, which I could have done rollerblades. Street hockey, we weren't near a rink. It's one of those things where a lot of kids play it, but it's expensive because you have to have a rink. So my brother was just like, he liked the game, he liked watching the game, but he wasn't passionate enough about playing it. So if it was available at school, he would sign up for it and play for like a couple weeks or something. Or we would play it on the street. But yeah. We're not Ontario, Ontario has they have more infrastructure than we do. Like our city is big now, but like we didn't have a lot of that stuff when we were growing up. Nowadays there's probably a rink more often.
Yeah, in Toronto you could spit and hit a rink. Hell, I live right across the street from an ice rink, an indoor ice rink.
Yeah, so it's not as big a deal now. But like when I was a kid, like if you were lucky, the school would like make a fake one during the winter or something. But like a lot of places won't do that because it damages the lawn. Pretty much. Sometimes the farmers will do it. Like if they know they've got a field next year that they're not going to be using, they'll make a rink out of it, because they do different fields, different years. So yeah, it's
Eastern
different.
Canada too. And well, I mean, places that aren't, urban areas, they tend to do that a lot. Like I remember living back out in Northern Ontario. As soon as we felt that the frost was here, we went right out into the field and made an ice rink.
Yeah, that's just how it is. Like some sports are just a little bit more expensive. And
isn't it disgustingly Canadian, Lindsay?
It is.
She's just sitting there going, "My God, they're so Canadian."
I could feel the maple syrup just pouring out of my pores.
Well, but believe me, Lindsay, it's one of those things of mine. It's on the bucket list of things to do. So like I could either go up to Lake Louise or maybe one of the smaller towns in Ontario, and you just got to look up one of those remote lakes, and you go up there and you just kind of look, because you can kind of understand why people would want to go ice skating on them or go play hockey on them, because it's really pretty. Mm-hmm. The US has it too, but like you've probably seen pictures before where you're just like, I can understand why people would put up with the cold for a day just to see it. Because it's really pretty, and it's clean. When you're away from the city, snow that looks clean is it's a totally different story. But on the other hand, nobody likes being cold for like 10 days, like we don't want to be cold for like 3 months. Going out for like a 3-day weekend is one thing.
Well, it's like the same, like where I live. I feel you guys, because when it's like 50 degrees outside, 50 degrees or even 60 degrees, I'm in a hat and like 2 sweatshirts because I'm very thin blooded. I mean, I grew up in a state where it's constantly hot every summer. So I don't exactly know what freezing cold is like. So yeah, again, I can feel for you guys.
It is a thing, but I mean, like you learn how to layer for it, and then there comes a point where if you've lived there your whole life, like I don't, and I am going to go to the genetics thing. I do not doubt that I can thank my ancestors for staying in the dark long enough for me to become so lily white that somewhere down the road it worked, because I'm comfortable in colder weather as opposed to warmer weather. Like I adjust to it pretty quickly. Like the thing here right now is it hasn't dropped for long enough to really adjust to anything past -8, which isn't concerning. It just means that February is probably going to suck.
Yeah. It's been cold here too. This past winter storm, or this past storm that we got a lot of snow up north.
Yeah.
So even parts where we normally don't get snow, because it really doesn't snow here in Phoenix. But if you go up to Flagstaff, which is like 4 hours up north, it snows. But there were certain parts of Phoenix that have gotten snow.
Yeah.
Which is very rare.
But at least it's not as bad as it is in the northern states or Canada.
Goodness.
Yeah, I could never imagine, living in somewhere like Arizona and then all of a sudden the weather changes to what I'm normally used to up here. Like,
Well, see, I'm not complaining that it's gone to -8 functional. I'm complaining that it hasn't gotten past -8 because I haven't gotten used to it,
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that, like, when it hits you, all of a sudden you really need to bundle up. So like I always have stuff with me, and Calgary is one of those places where even if it doesn't get that cold, you want to have it on you. Because within a day, it could change. Like you could go to work and like say you have a short shift, even it could be a 6-hour, 4-hour shift, and within that 4-hour period, you could go from like, it was 2 to -6. So I mean that's not a lot, but it's enough of a drop that you need to have something to bundle up with. And this is in Celsius, so I think that's what, like 32,
probably
something around that. So I mean, you want to adjust for it. You want to be okay. My blood is ready for that right now. I don't need to bundle up too much, but I need to bundle up a little bit. I know that functional in Ontario has what? Like I think you guys have gone to what? -14, -16 at least.
16, yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, and that's
it was sunny. It was not snowing, and I went outside to go run some errands, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what the fuck? It's -16 out. Jesus Christ. It's not windy, not nothing. Just,
yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah, it's like right now it's 70, what we say 71 degrees here, which is 22 where you guys are at.
Yeah.
So
sounds delicious. That's what my apartment's at right now.
But you guys also have a higher humidity too, which is something that we don't have. So when we are at that kind of level of cold,
not compared to here.
Yeah, the desert is dry.
They're dry, and here being surrounded by 3 of the Great Lakes, we're very humid in summer.
Yeah.
It is revolting. That's why I love the winter so much, I think, is because the humidity in the summertime here is just so awful. So awful. You stick to everything.
So I think
kind of look like these pigs right here.
I think that still makes a difference in the winter too. So like it's probably a hell of a lot more comfortable. Like I'm more inclined to visit you guys in the winter, and I know that sounds weird, but because I can't handle humidity for longer than 4 days before my brain wants to split out of my skull.
Yeah, I mean it's 2 months out of the year, but it's a brutal 2 months.
Yeah. But for us, because it's dry and it's cold, it's like working in a cooler. Like, yes, at 16, you might want to have a booth when you're waiting for the bus, but it's like being in a cooler. So as long as you've got a proper insulated coat and, you know, you've got your head muff or your hat or your gloves, you should be okay. You know, you might want a scarf too, just because you want to cover anything that's going to make you sick if you're exposed. But otherwise,
that's why I both love and hate where I am, because you know, it's gorgeous real estate being surrounded by the lakes, the Great Lakes, but at the same time, it affects the weather, hot and cold, just so much more when you're so overly saturated by fresh water. Now, if you live on the coast and you have salt water, that's a completely different story. Or if you're near, or if you're near smaller bodies of water like smaller lakes and rivers. But again, being around that section of the Northeast, around the Great Lakes, it's just it's awful.
Yeah, I have sympathy for you guys for it. Like don't get me wrong. Like I'm not. I definitely don't complain about these Chinooks, because the thing with the Chinooks is like it's been constant this year, Lindsay. Like it comes up all the time with me because it's like all the time. Last year it was once every 2 weeks. So like it would come up, but it wasn't a big deal. This time it's every other day. So like we'll have, on the 4th day, you'll have a big snow, like enough that the piglets can make a little pigloo. But you know what? That piglow's only get to half that size because the snow isn't coming down enough. And then within like 2 days, it's going to shrink because it's melted already. That's what the Chinook does. And that's why, you know, sometimes you go out in a sweater because you don't have enough time to adjust to the heat or the cold. And then all of a sudden the Chinook fucks off for a decent amount of time, which is what I'm worried about, because then all of a sudden we're going to go from like, oh no, it was -3 to holy shit, it's -16. And that will happen. It will catch up and it'll hit us in one day. And then all of a sudden you're just like, okay, so now you're talking 3 sweaters, because I'm not used to that change.
No, yeah. Well,
and that's exaggerated, but
that's kind of what happened here, is that like mid-October, it was 90 degrees Fahrenheit, because it's still warm. It's still super warm here in like beginning to mid-October. And then we go from that, like we didn't even have a transitional period. We go from hot to cold in a matter of like a week. I was like, are you serious? I'm not used to this. I'm surprised I'm not sick all the time.
Are you guys near like mountains too? Like,
oh yeah,
I know that's pretty much what causes. Yeah, that's what Cryptic was saying for his state.
Yeah, we're also, they call Phoenix, or here the locals call it the Valley of the Sun, because we're literally in a valley. So you turn to like north, south, east, west, and you'll see at least one mountainous structure.
Awesome.
They do a lot. I mean, I also live near Crow's Nest Passing, so it's one of those things like you get the benefit of the wind block, which is what makes them like good places to live. But then you know about the Crow's Nest Passing, and then so that's a ghost story if you've ever wanted to hear one. So I've always known about the town, but I didn't know exactly where it was. It was one of those things where I suspected, but my dad had never like pointed it out. So like at least once a year for years, we would drive past this town. So half the town is still there and half the town is underneath a mountain. I didn't know that that was where it was. Like I'd heard the story about the town that was under a mountain. I just didn't know that that was that mountain. It was just a really eerie place with a bunch of boulders all over the place. And, you know, you go from one mountain to the other and I'm sorry, you see boulders everywhere. Like they kind of blend in. But this place is very extreme. Like, it was one of those things where I should have realized that it was a little too extreme for it to be like just a little bit of a cave-in. So this was a half of a mountain that crashed on this small town, and it's kind of like our miniature version of a Pompeii, because it's very rare, and you're never gonna know what's happened to those people. Like, they're gone. Like, they've been gone for a really long time. But it's just, you drive through it, and you don't even need to know the name of the town. You know something's wrong, because it's just eerie. Like, you could just feel like this spooky background feeling. I don't know. I wouldn't want to camp there. Let's just put it that way. I would go to the town though.
Well, it's like a graveyard.
Oh yeah, it was totally a graveyard. It is 100% the graveyard. Now the town itself, like the town that's still there, is fine. Like they're a little bit further. Like they've built further away from that area, obvious reasons. And they're fine. You know, you go to visit them, and they do a lot of firework displays. So they're really proud of that. It's one of those things that everyone that I meet from there, they're like, you gotta come during the summer because we just do this fireworks festival. And I'm like, do you do anything else? And they're like, fireworks. Damn it. They're nice people though.
So shifting gears once again, gonna get into a little bit of the political, because there was some stuff that I saw this week that or since the last stream.
It's a good thing you're changing that picture, because those piglets are so fluffy.
They're cute. I don't care what anybody says. I love pigs.
I do too, and they're tasty.
I know, right?
Yeah, yeah. So northern United States residents, get to hunting, because that's good eating.
I hate it because it's like pigs are so cute, but I'm like, oh, but bacon is so delicious. And pork belly. Oh, and I love pork.
But they're an invasive species, so you got to keep the population controlled.
Yeah.
But yeah, turning to the political, the first story I wanted to cover was Trudeau says he won't let restraint premiers scuttle municipal handgun ban. So what's happening up here in Canada is, because we're under the thumb of Trudeau, they're trying even more insidiously to do a gun grab, even though we all know that these aren't the guns that are causing the problems. And they're going for people's guns who are in geographic areas that aren't the problem. Because I'll say it straight up, places like Edmonton, Alberta, Toronto, Ontario, Montreal, Quebec, these are the places where handgun violence and gun violence is a big issue. But they're not legal guns.
Yeah.
So the gun grab's completely useless. And we don't have the Second Amendment, so we don't have it really enshrined as a protected right. And it's really scary to me, because I see a lot of the parallels of what's going on in West Virginia, but we're seeing it on a national scale up here. So he says they would prefer to collaborate with the provinces, but can use quote unquote other tools to empower cities. And I'm like,
Trudeau, I would just like to remind you that our last article was about piglets, and I hate to break it to you, those cute little piglets grow up to be really scary monsters when they're huge.
Yeah.
You know, a knife does not work on that.
I mean, this is specifically handguns, but with the handguns, then comes the rifles, then comes, it's just a stepping stone. And I don't want to call it a slippery slope, because they all go hand in hand. Because their next argument will be, if they pass, handgun confiscations, then the next thing will be like, well, a rifle's pretty much just a handgun with longer range. People don't need rifles. It's like bullshit. Anyone outside of any urban area needs something to protect themselves, something to provide for themselves. I've done it myself in my teens and early 20s. So don't give me this. But it just the quote unquote other tools. It seems, like, what are they going to start putting military on the streets to ensure that these gun confiscations are done with overwhelming force, leading to what you would hope for is peace? Because yes, I would be pissed off and I would want to fight till my last dying breath, but at the same time, it's just a handgun, and I'm not going to make a stink at the barrel of 12 rifles.
Now, if you could educate this ignorant Yank here. So
Sure.
when it comes to Canadian politics or Canadian government, so you guys don't have individual governments or individual congresses, I guess, shall I say, in the provinces. It's all the legislation is passed from Parliament.
Well, we have a federal government that's parliamentary system, the House and the Senate, and then we have
our premiers.
Our premiers, who are basically the leaders of the provinces.
The provincial leaders.
Okay.
And they often meet, the premiers. They often meet with each other, and they meet with the representatives.
We are
from our provinces who act on the federal level.
We are technically supposed to govern ourselves. The problem with Justin is, for some reason, he doesn't understand that part of our constitution.
We used to be much like
tighter.
We're talking 30 years ago, much more invested in what you guys know as states' rights. So here, provincial rights, self-governing. Okay. We're more of an alliance of territories than we were a federal level government. They were still there, but they had very specific jobs, like dealing with the military, dealing with the crown, dealing with defense, provincial redistribution of taxes on the federal level, just to make sure that a province isn't going to go bankrupt, kind of thing. So provinces that are more prosperous will contribute more, and it'll allow us to be more stable as a nation. Obviously, you probably have more inclining that we're a little bit more socialist. We have more social programs, and that's one of the big federal ones. So in the last 30 years, I'd say yes, more and more power is being grabbed up by federal legislation, and it's starting to wear thin on everybody, from the politicking that went on at the provincial level to the common person. We're getting really sick of the feds digging their nose where it really has no right to belong. You guys as the federal government have a very clear, well, not very clear, there's a lot of vagary, but you guys have a more or less clear theater of operation in what you guys do for the country. And the provinces, because we understand that the needs of Ontario are going to be different than the needs of Saskatchewan or New Brunswick. And even within that, that's why we have municipalities, because the needs of Northern Ontarians are going to be very different than in South Ontario, where the big cities are. So, yeah. I mean, it's very much more of a localized system of governance, or at least that's what we try to do, because that's what makes sense. It logically makes sense for the reasons I just gave. Any number of things: education, the need for firearms, social services, unemployment services, these kinds of social programs, very, very different in different parts of even their own provinces.
Sorry, I'm laughing. I'm not laughing at you or the topic. It's just I got a response from Polydub. He's like, "Hey there, all. I would join. I like showing up for random streams, but I'm out and about right now." So I was like, "No worries, Polly. Hey,
I saw him on.
Be jelly, guys."
Lucky you. He never got back to Mike, because I invited him on the Star Wars stream that I did, and just a couple days ago, and I haven't heard back from him. I'm like, okay,
he's a interesting guy. Like, I'm not talking shit about you, Polly, just in case you're watching, because I would love.
We love you, Polly.
But it's just sometimes he'll like, I think he would like to have a conversation with me, because I talked to him on a Jack Gunski stream. I think you might have even been there, at least watching, and it was just I know I was kind of emotional at that time, because like I'd come to the terms with the fact that my country was turning into China. And that we'd elected it on so many levels. Like, it was just like we elected an idiot twice.
Well, here, I'm not gonna bring up that article, because that can tie into the next one. But please continue.
Yeah. But yeah, like we elected an idiot, and he's on a tightrope. Like, I'm not bringing up the Wexit stuff all all the time because I agree with it. I'm bringing it up because he does stuff like this. So luckily, he looks like he's targeting you guys. Like, he looks like he's targeting Ontario, and he looks like he's targeting Quebec. But that doesn't mean he's not stretching it out here too. And it's one of those things where we don't have necessarily a huge gun problem in the city. Like, we do have some gang units, you know, like there are bad people regardless of where you go. But our gun violence in terms of our numbers is pretty low if you look up the stats for it.
And I'm just gonna outright say it. A lot of the time, it happens with foreigners at different levels. So they may have become citizens. They might just be, you know, I'm not talking just about overseas. I'm talking about Americans too. When we have things like Caravana, a bunch of Americans come up here and they cause problems. They cause a lot of violence. In recent years, it's only been getting worse and worse. Even though, you know, surprisingly, we have such a stringent border policy now. Before, it was like the largest undefended border in human history, and now it's just like it's like any other border. It's becoming bad, but it seems to be only one way.
And a lot of it used to be, and probably still is, the drugs. And you know, you and I both know that I'm not talking about pot. We aren't talking about pot. We aren't
cocaine,
even
heroin, crack. Yeah,
you know, we aren't even talking about meth. We're talking about fentanyl. We are talking about like hard heroin. We are talking about harder stuff because you see a reflection of that a lot more than anything else. But a lot of the gang violence is coming from it. Like, you know, that's where it's coming from. And I understand it's the population too, like 37 million people. And a lot of that is the cities. Like, the big cities are going to have more violence. That's just how that is. Yeah. But in terms of our overall numbers, Ontario and Quebec do have more people. Like, they do have the voting seats for a reason. And I've always respected that was fair in that sense because of the numbers. It's not. Not overall. But in terms of how you guys ran yourself, it just made sense that you would have tougher laws on certain things, you know.
Right.
But you also have a lot more farms because you are a bigger population. It's a lot further up north. We have that, but not as much. You know, so like you look at our overall city populations out here, yeah, our gun violence is a little high, but we don't have the big U-Haul that you guys do. Most
at the end of the day, it's the illegal guns.
Yep.
These are not registered firearms. These are not people, law-abiding citizens. And you know what? We don't have the same problem of these mass shooters who do get legal guns illegally.
Yeah.
You know, like in just speaking general terms, like the kid who gets his parents' gun. So that's a legal gun. It's used illegally by someone who's not registered to use it, et cetera, et cetera. We're not talking about those types of things.
Let me put it to you this way.
We don't have that level of violence here.
My dad has always owned a gun my entire life. I did not know he had always owned one, but I always, like, when I was probably a young child, I knew that he owned one. I had
3 guns before I lived in the city.
I've never once seen it.
Moved back to the city.
I only think I saw it the first time when I was 33 years old, and it was just because we were out at the lake in BC, and they'd had bear sightings. So my dad was just checking his gun was there, it was available. He made sure that it was locked in front of me. He showed me that he had locked it in front of me, and then he locked it in a case so that I, you know, and I told him, honestly, Dad, I want nothing to do with that, with no experience with it. I have no business with it. And he respected my opinion on it. And I said, well, maybe someday I might learn how to use a gun, but right now I don't need to. So I'm not going to. That might change with Justin because he's turning into like Mr. I really like the commie message from China. But right now I don't see the need to because I'm not afraid of my neighbors so much. You know, like I know that there's
taking its top.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just cueing the video because, yeah, like we were talking about with China and how I'm constantly talking about Canada and fucking China and the willingness that Trudeau is willing to just bend over, not even himself, but forcefully bend over all of Canada to the whims of fucking China. And this is just like the latest in his just spinelessness. So we have 2 detainees in China, political detainees. These aren't like you know, what any rational country on earth would call criminals.
China is taking its toughest stance yet. A top state spokesman warned Prime Minister Justin Trudeau he is doomed to fail if he thinks the U.S. will help secure the release of 2 Canadians from Chinese custody.
Listen to the wording.
In cryptic and possibly threatening comments, the spokesman leaned on an old Chinese saying to hammer home his point. Those who pull other people's chestnuts out of the fire will only end up burning themselves.
And I'm going to stop that there because I wanted to focus on his wording. Like these are veiled threats. And once again, Canada's, you know, our prime minister is just kind of going, eh.
I honestly,
because he hasn't put the effort in to bring Canadian citizens home. He was more willing to fast track Omar Khadr, a known terrorist, a convicted terrorist, and bring him home than he is 2 Canadian citizens that are trapped in China for nothing more than not being a Chinese citizen. It makes me mad.
It makes me mad because, like, the thing is like he should be telling them right now, fine, we will let go your executive and you will let go of ours, but when we do, you're going to take your company out of our country. And that's
I would go that route. I would say, well, you know what? And I would take a play out of the Chinese government's playbook and say, well, you know, any of you now, all of your foreign-owned properties. So any Chinese national or business that owns property or businesses here are now the property of the Canadian government. Yep. You want to take our citizens, we're going to take everything you own here. And Lindsay, I'm not sure if you know, but Canada, and this is, again, why I'm harping so hard on China, we're basically selling swaths of Canada to China. Yeah. Oh, whether directly or through intermediaries.
Sometimes it feels that way here because we have the problem with a lot of corporations that are kowtowing to Chinese demands.
Of course.
You know, like with
NBA,
like with what happened with Blizzard Entertainment just recently.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again and I'll keep saying it. We as the West, the big 3, United States, United Kingdom, and Canada, should basically turn around and say to China, no more. We're not going to embargo you, but we're not going to do business with you because you are such egregious human rights abusers. They're still rounding up Muslims and detaining them and putting them in literal concentration camps. And the politicians in the West are going, eh.
Well, no, and it's like this kind of shit is really exposing just how corrupt corporations are. They don't seem to care. It's like they seem to care more about the China, you know, getting money from China than about the consumers here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. We talked about that with Star Wars, and it's
and it bombed in China.
You know,
and because these companies are forgetting their base, what made them the megacorps that they are today, they're American, Canadian, British audiences and consumers. They're saying, well, we don't care about you. We'll just go for our Chinese money.
I'm going to go a little data conspiracy, but, like, you know, honestly, considering where they've had their fingers in for so long, I wouldn't be surprised if this underlying, you know, hate for America, hate for Western society is entirely China, you know, because you look at it, like, what have we been hammered on for the last 5 years, even longer than that, since like 9/11, you know, Muslims this, Muslims that, oh, you know, they did something bad here, blah, blah, blah. You know, and we're supposed to be so forgiving, but then you see China doing stuff like that, and we've been painted as like the great evil is the Western society, and it doesn't matter if Western society is a mixture of people. It's all the white people in the Western society that are the evil ones, right?
Oh, of course. Global minority, but we're the big evil in the world. We've given, I say we, but you know, that colloquial white civilization, Western civilization. Given civilization,
and you can say that because you know Chinese people who are just like fuck China, you know, because they know damn well what they're doing. and I know damn well what they're doing too. And it's just, I really hate that we have Trudeau. There's so many people I would rather have Tom Mulcair than Justin Trudeau. If I could go back in time and vote for the other commie,
Mm-hmm.
at least I knew what he was.
Yeah.
Well, I hope for your guys' sakes that you guys have like, a Trump Boris Johnson moment,
At this point,
we almost do, but it's complicated because he got ousted from the Conservative Party, and then the Conservative Party kind of did really poorly, all things considered, and he's turned his back on the Conservative Party, and he's also a native French speaker, so his English debate skills just aren't that powerful.
Yeah,
and that drug quite a bit, but we've gone on at length about Maxime earlier.
Sorry to ram in on him. It's just like there's so many reasons to be nervous about it. But yeah, let's go on to Boris, because you know what? I've got two things about Boris. One, obviously, just a puff piece, but showing that he's still. I hate to say this because he's, at the end of the day, he's still a politician, but why I like him is he's a genuine guy and he's willing to do these puff pieces, even though they're blatant puff pieces, unlike certain other people that he absolutely crushed in the last election who don't do puff pieces because he's a self-absorbed fucking communist. But, he just, did the photo op of serving Christmas lunch to British troops in his visit to Estonia.
Kinda cool. the one communist, the one that the anti-Semitic. That's another thing too. It's like, a commie who happens to rub elbows with anti-Semites, but whatever.
However, today there was a fight that broke out during a protest right outside his house in London.
Oh, good.
And I'm going to play this. Hopefully the volume's not too loud. It's just, somebody filming what was going on. You can see there's a lot of black-clad, black bloc style protesters around. We can obviously assume who it is. Obviously it's Antifa. It's those types. Whether or not they're direct members of, their local Antifa chapter or what have you. But, if anything, and I've dealt with actual neo-Nazis throughout my life, if anything, these people look more like neo-Nazis than anyone I've dealt with.
They do. Well, they act like
neo-Nazis.
They act like fucking Nazis too.
Yeah, they're thugs. Somebody's dropping a smoke grenade, smoke flare, whatever you want to call it.
Trying to get through to them. Like it's so frustrating to try to get through to them because every time they show up on a screen anywhere, because it doesn't matter what video or what country you're seeing the video from, they all look the same.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you not know what that was about, what the Nazis were about? Like when you watch one of those Disney videos, those old Disney cartoons with Donald Duck, and everyone is the same. How can you not see that? And they talk about diversity, but like, how can you dress like that? And
well, come on, look at the diversity of the police force.
Oh, well,
police force so white, right? I'm kidding.
We've seen how these fucking commie LARPing thugs have acted towards minorities who don't align with their political worldviews.
Of course.
Oh yeah, they're like terrible.
And in the West, we have
diversity. My ass.
You have the right to peaceful assembly and peaceful protest, but they are not peaceful. As you can literally see, they're not peaceful. They're not assembling peacefully. They're not acting in a peaceful manner. They're whether it's the United States, Canada, or Britain. They're intentionally acting to antagonize people, whether it's blocking traffic or disrupting people's daily lives or going to politicians' home and threatening them, or even news people. Like, look at what happened with Tucker Carlson.
It's gonna de-evolve. Like, the thing with kids like this is kids are not stupid. I remember there was this guy in my province who was a bomber. He would make little constructions and he would send them to executive offices. He would find out who worked there and he would send them a letter box trap, and they would come home and open the box, and I think he managed to kill like 2 people. You know, and I remember my mom was under threat because like she just worked in the office. It didn't matter if you were important there. It was meant to terrify everyone working there. And these kids are like that. They are like that. Like they're at the point where, you know, they can figure out that quick drying cement can burn you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, permanently scar you and harm you. And they're willing to go that far. Like they need. I'm sorry. I understand that the police force can't do certain things, but like honestly, beating the crap out of people works sometimes. Sometimes it works. I don't want to.
No, that's the first steps of a tyrannical government, and
not to the.
I
police.
mean, unless they are acting outwardly, like you have to meet the amount of force that these people are using with an equal amount of force until it becomes life-threatening. Then you can use a superior amount of force to quell the threat to life.
But I'm saying that they're not even getting that far.
Yeah, no, they're not.
Like they need to get to that point because these kids are cowardly. Like they honestly are. Like they are definitely, you know, the upper middle class kids who are bored or who've gone to.
They're LARPing.
You know, they are.
Yeah.
LARPing. You know,
I don't know if you guys have ever seen the British comedy The Young Ones.
Yeah, of course.
But they act just like Rick because that's exactly the type of person that Rick was. He grew up in this middle upper class upbringing, and he thinks that he's like this communist, like I'm fighting the oppressors, you know.
I hope I didn't offend anybody too much with that beat the shit out of people thing, but like sometimes I don't like the idea of bullying, but I understand that with some people they need.
It's like Bart Simpson when he first gets trained sent as a little helper. You must correct the dog. You have to pull that choke chain, and you need to teach them because they obviously weren't taught in their upbringing. I get that notion. I really do. But to me, that does become a slippery slope because then you can, in other circumstances that will be peaceful assembly, you could turn that around on someone.
Like, don't get me wrong, with the police, I don't ever want to give them the right to actually start anything. Like, for them, I'm fully supportive of them protecting themselves because they put their life on the line for others. They deserve to protect themselves. I support that entirely. I would never want to give them a position like Hong Kong in any sense of the word. So no to that, 100%. It's just one of those things where, like, sometimes it would be nice if they could turn a blind eye to the odd smack. You know, I understand they can't if it's like threatening or something, but like, come on, guys, you got to understand, like, there comes a point where these kids are going to hurt somebody. And if somebody has to put themselves into a position where they have to hurt them to stop somebody, they could actually get hurt doing that too.
Speaking of stopping somebody, and Space Force.
Yay!
Oh, man, it is incredible because this is the first like big thing that has bipartisan support. Obviously, Trump has
historic day for
Can you hear?
American Armed Forces.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I clicked
just a few
sound or
minutes,
not.
I will proudly sign into law the largest ever investment in the United States military. In fact, I could say
such a good move for him
largest
too.
ever by far.
Well,
today also marks
there is a new
another
space
landmark
race going on,
achievement as we
and it's
officially
between China and the
inaugurate
West.
The newest branch of our military. This is a very big and important moment. It's called the Space Force.
America,
Space
fuck
Force.
yeah.
America, fuck
Space. Gonna be a
Sorry,
lot of things happening in space. Because space is the world's newest warfighting domain. Amid grave threats to our national security.
I don't like that
American
wording
superiority
especially,
in
but
space is absolutely
it is a
vital.
new theater.
And we're leading, but we're not leading by enough, but very shortly we'll be leading by a lot. The Space Force will help us deter aggression and control the ultimate high ground.
And we all know who he's talking about. Again, China, India even has a space program that's kind of but that part of the world is really getting up there.
So, is this supposed to be like a certain sect that's going to combat any cyber attacks and stuff? Is that what they mean by Space Force? Like,
no, it's literally outer space. So
we have like missiles.
It's going to deal with training people to operate in 0G. Excuse me. So think of like Marines.
Like the
we're specially trained, to operate in 0G. So when they need to board something, I mean, right now, all we really have up there that could be breached is the ISS. So I'm just going to use that as an example. But in future, there will be more structures out in space. But so there'll be that sort of sect of it. They're going to be under the auspices of the Air Force. So we're going to have to develop and train people to develop the planes to act in the stratosphere and into open space, and train people how to fly them, which is completely different than if you're flying a vehicle in an atmosphere.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no atmosphere, so there's no drag. There's still acceleration, G-forces, but it's very different. So it's a complete, entirely new beast that they have to specially train in various ways, and not only train, but first they have to develop the training. They have to get up there themselves and be like, okay, we need to learn how to train people, we need to learn ourselves how to do to maneuver and fight in these 0G atmospheres, theaters. But then we need to train others how to do that.
I am channeling Gundam here.
Yeah. I mean, it's what happens when China does build I'm just using these as examples. I'm not saying that they're doing it or anything, but let's say they build their own space station, and then we learn that they have the ability to throw rocks, asteroids, or missiles, or whatever. You're going to need to be able to diffuse that situation however many ways. It's a natural progression because obviously, with the invention of great battleships and submarines, we needed to develop new ways and develop our navy accordingly. So it's the next frontier, space. Kind of cool. Maybe Scribe one of these days you'll get your moon base, buddy. I'm right there with you.
I'm literally thinking Gundams here, like some kind of weird looking Gundam, because like it's gonna go to the planets too. Like if you look at what kind of robots they're building right now, like how they move, and because they're built for Mars, a lot of them are being built with the intentions of them going to Mars and testing out.
Yeah, it's a way of getting around the mortality factor that we have if we went.
Yeah. So yeah, I could that would be interesting to see. I'm not saying that's where it's going, but I could see it actually going there, because I'm not saying we're going to see upright robots, guys, but we're going to see something.
Yeah, totally. Just to chew through some of the article, the new military service, the first in more than 70 years, falls under the U.S. Air Force. At an army base near Washington, Mr. Trump described space as the world's newest warfighting domain. Like I said, potentially, I'm not exactly keen on that kind of wording. I'd like it if it was more peaceful, but we all know how reality plays out, and intentions are not always clear, and shit can happen. So it's good to be able to defend yourself. Amid grave threats to our national security, American superiority in space is absolutely vital, he said. We're leading, but we're not leading by enough. But very shortly, we'll be leading by a lot. Help us deter aggression, blah, 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 everything we just saw in the video. France announces their new Space Defense Command. Trump is asking supporters to vote on logo. So they're having a logo competition. Wow. That's kind of cute. And India is also, like I mentioned earlier, they're also really big on their space program. They're investing a lot more into it. The funding allocation was confirmed on Friday when the president signed the $738 billion annual U.S. military budget. The launch of Space Force will be funded by an initial $40 million for its first year. So, like I said, that's probably going to go to basically military think tank to develop and decide what they need to start learning, how they're going to start learning it, and then how the next progressions are, how they're going to train and vet soldiers. You know, they're going to have to build this base infrastructure because it's an entirely different theater. And it's an entirely different environment on the human body as a whole. And what will they actually do? It's not intended to put troops in orbit, but will protect U.S. assets, such as the hundreds of satellites used for communication and surveillance, playing into what you were asking me before about cyber attacks. So physical attacks on our cyber infrastructure are part of the Space Force mandate. Comes after U.S. military chiefs see China and Russia making advancements in the military final frontier. Again, you know, I talk about this at length. China's going hard. China's going hard on so many different levels, and we have to, as the West, again, the big three, we have to meet that. And we haven't been because of you know, just a laissez-faire attitude, because people said, okay, well, you know, the Cold War's over, we really can just disarm and try to take it. But no, there's still threats out there. New threats, bigger threats like China. North Korea is a threat, but they're not a threat in space.
I think he's actually done grounds with him too, actually. You know, like, I think his power has shifted quite a lot over the year. Like, I'm not saying he's not still crazy or that you shouldn't take him seriously or not still treat him like a child who's a leader, but I think I think he does respect Trump a little bit. You know, it's one of those things where I think he knows that Trump is good for his word to the best of his abilities. Like, I mean, you know, he does know that most of his guys will hold him back from doing anything too hasty. But, like, you know, when his hand's on that button, I don't doubt that he's serious when he's thinking about it, you know? He's already weighed the options. He's just like, listen, I'd rather save your people, but if I can't do that, then I'm just going to have to get rid of you somehow, you know?
And Putin, I don't have the comments ready, but I know he had some comments on Space Force basically saying, you know, I don't really trust America. I don't trust Trump to just operate up there and not respect Russian assets because they too have, you know, satellites or whatever. Which, again, I'm hoping it's going to be a, you know, benign thing, mostly a defensive measure, because you never know what's going to go on up there. It's not like we have, it's space. There's no land to claim. There's no airspace to claim.
They are well within their rights to want to defend themselves. Like, historically speaking, yeah, they should. And I respect them for doing it. It's just as long as they understand that I respect you, the Americans, for doing it too. Like, I'm fully for them, you know, going out there and learning more about space, because the more
Putin's just worried because he's broke and they don't fund their space program as well anymore, even though they were the pioneers in the space race. But yeah, keeping on with our American news of the week, McConnell bashed by the Dems for delaying USMCA vote until after impeachment trial. Shocker. First of all, it should be CUSMA, because then we can call it what it is, Kuzma. No? You guys aren't on board? You can't say USMCA. You can say Kuzma. Like, you could say NAFTA. Kuzma? Yeah, if you just put Canada before the US, it's a NASA. I know no one what. Yeah, exactly. Like these acronyms.
NASA. We don't say NASA, we say NASA, yeah.
Yeah. So, so I've been hearing a lot of news from both sides. You know, there's the Trump side of the do nothing Dems, blah, blah, blah. But USMCA has already gone to the Senate, and it's now sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk. And he's saying he doesn't want to touch it until the impeachment is over. I think that that's fair.
Yep.
I don't think it's the do nothing Dems. But I think it's fair to wait until the impeachment's over, because the Dems are doing this to themselves. They made this the hot topic, the biggest topic du jour, and of the last 2 years. So now you made your bed, you're going to have to lie in it. And everybody's liking the USMCA. Dems, Republicans, Canadians, Mexicans. We're liking that it's going to be a better deal all around and not just a loosey-goosey NAFTA agreement. which really had a lot of critics on both sides for a long time. Yeah, that's part of the ongoing shit show that is impeachment. I don't want to get into too much about impeachment itself because people have already been talking about that at length, and I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care.
Whenever you bring up Mitch, it's one of those things where, like, sometimes he does things wrong and sometimes he does things right. But all I remember is this one time back when there was that one poor judge, whatever his name is, I can't remember right now. Kavanaugh, yeah, and when he defended him and just that one feminist and is walking away and that smug look on his face, and I was just like, "You're my meme hero."
You know, that headline here, this Tucker Carlson headline, is like, what distract you from what's really going on? It's like, yeah, the Democratic Party is in fucking shambles and the debates have been a disaster.
Yeah, for the most part, and their strongest candidates aren't doing well with the Democratic base, which is it's a shame. Tulsi wasn't even on the last one. I covered it in my last stream. Tulsi wasn't there. Yang was there, who's a personal favorite of mine, but he's not strong enough with the Democratic base, and I don't understand why. Because it's not like he's what they deride. He's not this wealthy businessman who I mean, he is wealthy, he is a businessman, but he's a businessman that works with charities, works with nonprofits. And what the Dems should be latching onto, what his campaign should be latching onto, is the fact that, yes, he works with nonprofits and the government shouldn't be a for-profit industry.
I know this is going to sound crazy, but I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't just a lot of Dems who are just so sick of their party.
Well,
there definitely
another
are.
thing too, it's not so much the Dems, it's the DNC. The establishment do not like Tulsi, they do not like Yang, they do not like Bernie, so you look at what happened with the last 2016 election, Bernie got fucking screwed over by the DNC.
Yeah.
And that's when he was at his strongest support. I honestly do believe he would have given Trump a run for his money during the election.
I think so too.
I do too. Well, I certainly wouldn't have been sweating bullets if Bernie got the Democratic nomination. That we have to give it to fucking Hillary, which
if you'd gotten Bernie, you probably would have had 4 years of him overspending. I could see that being a thing. Like, if you'd had Bernie, he would have been in for 4 years spending all the time.
It's tough to say because of the checks and balances in their government. I think he might have had a similar presidency to Trump, and in that he's made a whole bunch of campaign promises. Not all of them have come to fruition, but he's not stopped. He's not stopped about the wall. He's not stopped. Look, Space Force, it's happened. He's tried to put the economy back on track and cut back some of the red tape to allow industries that were shut down because of so much red tape and NAFTA, and tried to play hardball with companies that do business overseas in China and India, and say, you know what, if you're going to do that, we're going to tariff you. Because that's not fair. If you're going to take jobs off of American soil and go down to Mexico, go over to China, India, wherever, we're gonna make you pay for it. He hasn't gotten everything he wanted, but I mean, he's been making strides on that, which is good. I don't necessarily agree with all the decisions, but I see that it's working towards a collective good for the economy. I think that they would have had a similar presidency in that respect.
Yeah, and it's like, that's the thing. The only thing I pretty much side with Bernie on is the anti-war effort. And that, in fact, I think I could say the same thing about most of the more likable Democratic candidates, like
the non-establishment.
I'm very much, I'm a libertarian. I am very much anti-war. But you're not just going to convince me with anti-war stuff. It's like, okay, so Bernie was talking about this Medicare for all thing, and all in great. I'm all for wanting to help people because I agree the cost of healthcare is ridiculous. People should not have to pay an arm and a leg to improve the quality of their life and stuff. But he's pushing for this Medicare for all. It's like, my issue is that, I can tell you from experience with Medicare for all, with Medicare, it's not that great. I mean, you're assigned a doctor. You don't get the best of services. And it's like, I understand wanting to, cover everyone.
Well, it was 6-7 years ago. He was ripping into the Medicare system. He hated it. And now all he can say is, oh, we're going to give Medicare to everybody, even the illegal immigrants. You here on vacation? Medicare.
That is what frustrates me. And I don't understand why Bernie
overnight,
supporters...
your income taxes will triple, and your healthcare options will go down, and you'll get worse care. I'm all like, whether or not you want a socialized system or a free market system, fine. That can be another discussion. But you have to have the checks and balances in place to prevent some of these corporate interests from becoming too powerful, too influential, and capping some of the costs. Because one thing I will still agree with him as far as his healthcare plans go. Yeah, you have to say to some of these drug companies, you can't increase the cost of a drug 300% overnight.
Yeah.
There has to be a cap, a percentage increase, and sorry, that is just unchecked capitalism, and I am so against unchecked capitalism, even though I'm for free markets, because not being interventionist and saying you have, adding all this extra red tape like they do with a Medicare system, you allow them to operate freely, but say that there's caps and there's checks and balances in place, but not government overreach.
Well, especially when you know that there's alternative drugs out there that sold at the same time.
I'm so sorry, Adam.
Bye, Adam.
He's been sitting there for God only knows how long, and I didn't see it because it was probably on one of my rants.
Hey, Mr. Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Hello. Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Hello. No, I haven't been sitting there that long. I think I jumped in and talking about pills or something.
Yeah. We were talking about the difference between Medicare and and honestly, we can't really compare what we have up here with what you guys have down there. I find even doing that is unfair. It really is, because you're talking about half of California, running under a system. So
not to mention we have like an almost 60-70% tax rate.
I mean, if you were to set that up, you would be setting it up by your states. Honestly, I would do it individually by state, run it individually by state, because then you know where the money is going and how much is there and how much they have to spend and what. But at the same time, I do believe in a balance of both. I think that having a system that allows you to go in and see a doctor when you need to see a doctor is fine, but I think that it's a good idea to have both style of hospitals, because the problem with free healthcare is always going to be the lineups. It's always going to be the price, and it's always going to be the lineups. Because even if the government is paying for it, you could have cancer, and if it's severe, yes, you'll get seen right away. But if you get caught early, you'd rather get it done.
Yep, absolutely.
Isn't that when you want it to be taken care of? But even at that, time and it just, and pricing is just kind of a but it's just that's kind of the thing, better scheduling, I guess, but that shouldn't cover the cost of how expensive it is for healthcare.
See, I think the competition is good too. Even with the free stuff, there's still competition too. So it's like right now we have competition with our pot. Let's go to pot, because pot is an easy one to cover, because that one is now illegal. So we still have people who will purchase black market and don't say anything, but we do. But we have the stuff at the government. Well, the government stuff it's okay, but it's not good. It's not good. They would do a lot better if they would allow a little bit more free market to it. I understand.
Well, they have learned from that, and they are starting to open up the markets.
And this will be good. This will be good overall, because the thing is what they've introduced is not good pot, and they really could have brought in the hands of people, just been like, hey, we won't discuss what it is that you've done in the past as long as you weren't, we don't want to know. But just
hey, Magic, happy Festivus.
Yay, he did get it. I was spamming him a little bit because I was hoping he would visit. We could still bring him in. I know 5 is a lot, but Magic is our guy from Quebec, and he's absolutely fantastic. But yeah,
okay, because I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to stay because my husband and I were talking about going and getting dinner. So
okay.
But I don't have too much more to cover. I was going to actually start shifting over to entertainment stuff.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, good.
I mean, you're one of the people who I like talking about entertainment stuff with. Where is it?
That's
You're
what
be
my
going out and
that's my
some dinner. There you go.
Yep. Talking about The Witcher. Ooh, I haven't seen The Witcher yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of gushing about it now because I'm a sucker for good content. It's not the best. It's no, early Game of Thrones. It's no Mando. I finished episode 7 today, I think, but I'm digging it. I'm loving it. I think it's fun. It's a good romp. Harry Cavill is fucking amazing as Geralt of Rivia. He's got that rough, gruff, monotone, emotionless kind of just presence, and it really works for Geralt. The costuming, everything. It's kind of got that. I don't know if any of you watched Hercules or Xena.
Oh yeah, I used
type
to watch
of shows.
Hercules
sort of in its setting and how it plays out the show, but less there's no real campiness. It does take itself a lot more serious because of the way it was taken in the books, based on the lore. And oh my god, the choreography is fucking intense. It is great. Cavill is amazing. In some of these just, I mean, even this meme here, you can see he's just like closed his eyes, like just under his breath, like fuck. Like I actually have to fight these knobheads, fully well aware that he could take an army of the guys he's about to fight. But in this particular scene, and it's not a spoiler, so I'm not going to ruin anything for anyone, but just from a technical aspect, this entire scene of him taking out 6 dudes is all done in one long shot, one long panning shot. And that to me is just, you don't get that a lot too much in modern entertainment. It's usually a lot of cut shots. And Lindsay, like in the later scenes of Game of Thrones, that's what they did. They did that piecemeal shot by shot by shot. Whereas in something like Battle of the Bastards, you had Jon Snow on screen for a good, like almost 2 full minutes with only one interruption, one cut throughout that full 2 minutes of him wading through a battlefield. Incredible production work. And we get a lot of that here. So yeah, I'm kind of digging it. It's a shame it just came out and not a lot of people have had time to absorb it yet, but it's on my 2 thumbs up list. Okay. If you get some time, anybody out there, you like sort of that fantasy, Game of Thrones, D&D, Lord of the Rings kind of stuff, this is good. And it's really making me want to, because I never read the books. I never played the video games. And I'm a massive gamer. Makes me want to go back and get those games. I actually bought them on Steam yesterday, the entire package for like $20.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3, and all the DLC and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I have 3 for the PS4. I just never broke it out and played it.
Yeah, and maybe people rant and rave at how good they are and everything. I've never gone around to it. Oh, a link? Oh my god.
Okay, so you're saying that
I sent him one.
Show as a standalone is something that is worth watching.
Oh yeah, because exactly as a standalone, because I've never really, aside from the occasional review or people talking about it in no real detail, I have no ties to it. I just went into it as, oh well, it's a new Netflix show. We'll sit down and watch it.
Well, sir, I mean that's exactly where I stand. I mean, I've never played the game. I've never read the book. I understand The Witcher. I know that it's something in the game sphere, I guess. But I'm not in the slightest familiar with it, but it does look like it has a quite a bit of a following. And if the Netflix if the next okay, hold on, let me try these words. Netflix show. Thank you. All right, Adam, you're good. If it's good, I might
golf club.
I might pick it up and take a look at the games eventually. I guess it's on the Switch, I think, right?
Well, it's
possibly
you get the third for the PS4, and then as Functional said, they've got it on Steam too. The 3-pack you said, all 3 games
for $20.
Oh God!
So
1, 2, and 3, and all the DLC. So
I'll be real with you, Functional. I can see where the comparison is in that article, and I can kind of get what they're going with. But in all honesty, it wouldn't really matter to me if they looked a little bit similar. I get that. One thing that they could change in the show is maybe give him a little bit of a stronger beard or something, have it grow in.
Is he too pretty for? Is he too pretty for you?
Wait. Are you saying Superman needs to have a CG beard?
His character in the game, throughout the series, throughout the adaptations, he's always got more of a rugged look to his face. He's got that worn down. I've been fighting for a long time.
Okay, hold on. I have to cut you off because it's not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to phrase this so that there's no spoilers. I'm trying my hardest not to do any spoilers, but it's not a continuous timeline show.
Okay.
That's all I can really say. So some scenes, some screenshots or whatever you might see might be him as a younger person. Now, part of being a Witcher that I learned is that they have a very abnormally long lifespan. We're talking hundreds of years, without being killed on the field of battle or in the line of duty. And what they are, they're like a mutated breed of humans who slay demons. And one thing I took umbrage with the Quartering's review, which really made me think that he didn't even watch the fucking show. He says, and it's some of the stuff I've read in articles really not being too favorable to it, that it starts off slow and then they took too many liberties and blah, 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 blah. Yes, I can't speak to the liberties, but the show does not start off slow. The show, even at its slowest points, are still kind of high tension political theater like you would get in the Game of Thrones world. So it doesn't drag on. Even the first scene is him slaying a demon. That isn't a slow start for a show. I'm sorry, my friend. He's someone I usually look at a lot of his reviews and what other people are saying about the media. And even on it's rocking a 63% on Rotten Tomatoes, critic score, 88% audience score, and on Metacritic it's only at a 53. So it's all over the place. I can see that a lot of people would say, "Oh, well, they're pushing diversity." No, not really. Not in practice. There is diversity. They're not pushing it because, yes, some of the big main characters are female. They're not pushing female characters on you. Yeah. This is already established. This is stuff I looked up in response to some of these comments because I'm like, that's not what I'm getting from the show. There are strong female characters. Yes, there are also weak, pathetic female characters. There are strong male characters like Geralt. There are weak, pathetic characters. It's not pushing any of these agendas. So people saying that on that side of things, they're wrong. And then the people who are harping on it because it's not a direct port.
I haven't seen this one, but it brings to mind the last time I watched a Star Wars movie, which was the Star Wars Rogue movie.
Rogue One, yeah.
And it was just like the theme was like they were pushing diversity because the main character was this strong woman. And I was just like, so I was trying to figure out, how is she this strong woman? So like the first scene is her mother completely ignoring what her father had just told them, and her losing both parents because her mother didn't do what her father had asked her to do. And it was just like, oh, I'm a strong woman. And it was just like, were you really a strong woman? Because the
show, don't tell.
Yes. Right? So within the first like 4 minutes, like I'm like, okay, so I understand what this character is. She's the type of woman who I make my own decisions regardless of the fact that like the ones that I've made things worse. So like after her mother disobeys her father, the daughter automatically disobeys her mother and makes things 10 times worse for herself yet again. And so like within like the 6 minutes of the movie, I'm just like, okay, so this girl is not even remotely strong. Like being strong doesn't mean that you're disobedient. Being strong is like making decisions that are really difficult because you know they're difficult to make.
And defeating adversity, overcoming the character's own shortfalls is a clear, simplest way to show that a character is strong. You show them an adversity as it relates to one of their own flaws, them overcoming that adversity, maybe not entirely, but getting over that first hurdle, you can start showing that the character has strength. You don't say, I'm a strong woman.
I'll say a strong character, the best way to figure it out, if he's capable of crushing a coconut with his bare hands. That's the way. Now you know that that's a strong motherfucker.
Damn right.
If he rapes an alligator, you don't cross his path. You're like, oh no, that's the dude that fucking alligator. Run away.
So like I could say, like I didn't hate the movie. Like, you know, there were certain characters I actually liked, you know, even though they weren't necessarily the favorites. I actually liked the blind monkey. You know, it was one of those.
Oh, I love the blind monkey. Yeah.
He was great. I liked him. I was like, I wish he had lived, you know. He was one of the few that I
Donnie
liked.
Yen, yeah.
But, you know, I didn't hate the main male character. I mean, like, his ending was kind of stupid. I was like,
Cassian, yeah.
You know, it was a little bit stupid, but at the same time, I didn't hate him, you know. So I didn't hate the movie. It was just like, this is this what you think that a strong woman is? And I was like, no, that I don't think you really understand what that really means. Like,
well, it's like you compare this character, this Jyn Erso character, to Leia.
Yeah.
There's a reason why people love Leia. Because, I mean, she is the definition of a strong female character. If we're going to go that route, you know.
Yeah. Into the garbage chute, Flyboy.
Yeah,
they're backed like, into a corner. They have that clear and present danger, that adversity. And she comes up with a short-term solution.
Yeah, exactly. It's like she's ballsy. Like
they get out of the trash compactor, and she once again she got them out of a situation into another situation. She takes the backbench on the next situation, but then after they finish with that situation, she takes the lead again. Somebody get this walking carpet out of my way.
My way.
She's back up there taking charge. And showing that she can take the adversity that the group is having and moving forward.
Sorry, also what I liked is that, like, watching that whole scene with her and Tarkin, and the way that she just threw shade at him, I'm like, this dude could kill you. And it's like, she just doesn't give a fuck.
And the genius part about I'm going to gush a little bit on the filmmaking. Okay, I'm going to remove that article because whatever. We're already on to Star Wars talking. That's how I was going to end.
I didn't mean to, but like
No, it's okay. But in the interaction with Grand Moff Tarkin and Darth Vader set up as the biggest, baddest, meanest motherfucker in the galaxy, and Grand Moff Tarkin brings him to heel in that one scene, and then you have Leia showing that strength in the eye of not only just Vader, but then Grand Moff Tarkin, somebody who can bring Vader to heel. she's not backing down.
Yeah.
She, like you said, she's throwing shade. She's going to be a strong character.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the entire trilogy, she doubles down on that strength. She's briefing the fighter pilots. She's taking command on not only, like, she was a politician, but now she's taking command on a military level,
Mm-hmm.
and keeping people alive.
In her own way, she's stronger than Luke. For majority of the series, she is stronger than Luke. It's actually kind of amazing because, like, Darth Vader, he follows Luke because it's like, oh my God, this is the son, but like, there's kind of that little backlog of that relationship between him and his daughter too, because like here she is, like, she's super strong throughout the whole thing. Whereas Luke has these moments where, like, he's absolutely weak, like he's vulnerable. He
sometimes has too many flaws.
He's the main focus. He's the archer of the character.
Yeah, he's Perseus. He's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Well, like, to me, it's like just a retelling of like those fantasies movie. It's Death Stalker for kids. It's Star Wars. There you go.
Death Stalker for kids. I like that.
But let's all be real. He did have that moment where he wanted to kind of bone his sister.
Yeah.
He did. He did.
He was attractive.
Hey, to be fair, he didn't know she was his sister at the time, so.
I'm just being fair too.
What I like about Star Wars is a multitude of like combination of movies. So you have the Han Solo character, which is like the Western.
Yeah, the plucky gunslinger.
Yeah. You got the Darth Vader and the Grand Moff Tarkin, which is more military talk, which I like too. Like those kind of like Save Private Ryan, not to that extent, not emotional as that, but the tactical of war and shit. And yeah, there's a multitude of like you got the side character like Yoda, like the weird little fucking Muppet in every fucking fantasy movie that's just like fucking stronger than you and shit.
Who's currently looking at you judgingly.
You're right. Sipping his bone broth.
He's the Mickey of Luke. You know Mickey of Rocky?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He's the Mickey of Luke. You got the crap lightning and shit thunder or something.
I just love that one scene between Yoda and Luke where it's like, I don't know why. I love it. That whole exchange when Luke was like, I didn't believe that, and Yoda says, and that is why you failed.
That's why you failed.
You know what? They should remake the fucking Beastmaster. That shit was awesome.
Yeah.
With the love for it and shit, that would be great.
Well, we need. I agree. We need a resurrection of the old sword and sorcery movies of the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, like the whole Beastmaster, Deathstalker, Conan.
Witcher.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. I'm a huge fan of, Conan, Red Sonja, the Beastmaster, Lady Hawk, like all these, swashbuckling. Princess Bride is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Tongue, though. That's the problem. They don't do it in a tongue anymore. That guy has only a tongue and a sword and beat fucking motherfuckers. That's all.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still a place, because Witcher does take itself very seriously. There's still a place for that fun adventure romp.
Mm-hmm.
Like your more Princess Brides, just there's a market for that. People want to see that kind of stuff done well.
The closest that I saw lately was Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yeah.
God, I need to watch that whole series. I love the Evil Dead movies, and
that takes it to the other extreme. It takes it to the other extreme. It doesn't take itself seriously at all. Oh my God. And the inclusion of Lucy Lawless.
That's no, but the Ash character is like the Luke character. It's just like an asshole about it. That's the only difference.
But he was a. You gotta admit, Bruce Campbell is quite the character actor. So
he sure is. He was like my first actor crush, so he has a very special place in my heart.
It's his portrayal of
I
anything,
did enjoy
even as a bellhop.
I suggest that you all watch the series. Pretty good. I've watched the 3 seasons, and it's really, really good.
Can you mute me for a second?
Can I mute you?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I can. Haha. I'm learning this whole StreamYards thing. I actually I was having so many technical difficulties today with technology. My OBS was just pooping on me, and assets that I, was making all week and getting themes ready for the show, my Saturday shows and everything, they just kind of pooped out on me, and it wasn't working. I was very
So, do we have any
distressed.
Americans today, or what?
Oh yeah, both Mr. Adam and Cynical Lindsay are our American cousins from down south.
Yep, indeed.
I'm in America, boo. I love fucking America. I've been to Vegas. It's great.
I saw this meme on Facebook and I had to save it. So I've been laughing at it.
Oh, I'm down with the Baby Yoda. Some of the memes coming out are just.
Hey, did you see? Apparently, people are getting pissed at Bill Burr for they're saying that he's throwing the Baby Yoda.
What?
He's throwing the Baby
I guess
Yoda?
there's a episode where, because Bill Burr.
Episode 6, yeah. It's
Bill
him,
Burr's in
Clancy
Star Wars?
Brown. It's him, Clancy Brown, and I forget her name, the actress who played Asha on Game of Thrones.
What? Bill Burr, the
yeah.
comedian?
Yeah, he was in an episode of The Mandalorian.
He was supposed to be like, I think they asked him to be just like, hey, you want to be a character in the show? And he said, yeah.
Well, he's friends with Jon Favreau.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, that too. And it's funny listening to his podcast. I don't know if any of you, hey,
I do.
weak show, but Monday morning podcast, go check it out. But he was talking about how he just like jumped on and it was like like a odd thing for him. But then I've been seeing that they're saying, hey, why is Bill Barr, fucking tossing Bill Burr?
Bill Burr.
God damn it.
Bill Burr.
But there's that other guy that fucking these names. You caught me on
These names.
But he's tossing Baby Yoda to the floor, and it's like, what the fuck? But then you see what he's doing. It's like, this is part of I don't know. I have to.
No, I mean, I don't know. I can't talk about it without going into spoilers, but it's not like he throws it to the ground or anything.
He doesn't throw it. That's the thing. It's like you can't exactly. You can't without spoiling. You can't say anything without.
That's pretty good. I like
see,
that.
See, now I would actually flip it because I'm Yoda on social media, or I don't know.
And in real life, you're this innocent.
Exactly, because you get on. Well, I think it's more along the lines of you get on social media and it just ages you, because it like heightens your blood pressure.
After you take it, after your fucking drunk escapade.
This is the truth here, right there.
Oh boy,
my beer you hold.
It's like the presidency office. You get in and then you age. Except for Trump, he's actually doing okay. I mean, he has aged, but he
hasn't so far done as bad as
come on,
Obama, Clinton,
the dude came in there with
Bush.
Like, everybody was goofing on him with his cotton candy hair, and you're gonna sit there. that's not it. You're not gonna know how aged Donald Trump is.
I mean, he
wears more makeup than a Texas hooker.
I think that's it, though. Like, even with that, like, you could tell that he's toned down with the tanning. Like, you could tell that even with that, he really has. Like, they say orange man bad, but I mean, a lot of the makeup was probably for the cameras.
Of course.
But I mean,
of course.
He's on camera. Like, this is Trump. But at the same time, though, you can tell that he's toned down on a lot of it. And that's probably aged him a lot too, because that's catching up on him. You know.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to run.
Okay, Lindsay.
Catch you soon.
So
it was good talking to you.
I was good talking to you guys too. We'll have to do this again some other time.
Yeah, you're welcome on anytime. And
your friends.
Anything you have to. Anything you want to quickly shill? Or...
Yeah, I will go ahead and I will pop my channel in the the chat. So if anyone is looking for a break from news related real life stuff and politics, come over to my channel where I talk about entertainment and pop culture, and a lot of times you'll see me spurging out over horrible decisions being made by Hollywood and such. So yeah, come check me out. And I did a live stream just recently. I had Functional on where we talked about Star Wars, and I lost my shit over Star Wars cookware. So
yeah, I think the three of us going through some of those spoilers just kind of broke our brains on Star Wars for the moment.
Yeah.
Wait, what kind of
how
like
often
pancakes
did you consider,
or waffles or
how often were you really in the considering mode?
The considering mode? I don't know. They were showing like these stoves and stuff, and I'm like, what? How is this supposed to be Star Wars related? You don't even have like the R2D2 pattern on like one of the stoves. You'd think that would get people
a logo, something to identify it,
right?
As, geeky.
Well, you could even have it in the shape of R2D2 if you really wanted to. I mean,
an R2 stove, that would be massive.
I mean, it would be solid.
But yeah, anyway, check all out also, because Lindsay and I and a couple of others are going to do some future projects based around, I'm hoping The Mandalorian, but also especially The Expanse, because we're really excited to start talking about The Expanse again.
Yes, I still need to get caught up on season 4, and I hope to do that sometime within the week. So yeah, I'll be keeping you posted on when I'm going to
sometime in the new year.
I have an idea that I need to sell to Ninja Foodie. They could totally do a Ninja Foodie in the shape of R2D2.
That's very true. All right, guys, I'm taking off, so I will catch you later.
Have a great night. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Night.
All right.
Thanks, both of you guys, for all three of you for visiting. Honestly. Yeah,
sorry it was short notice. Like I said, I had some technical difficulty bullshit with OBS, so I kind of just changed the entire deal. Pray I don't change it any further.
Wait, visiting what?
Visiting what?
Joining us on the stream.
Oh.
Popping by and saying hello and speaking your mind.
Like, I think I've talked to you maybe once or twice on the Minions, because I recognize your voice and I recognize some of the conversations. And I'm trying really hard not to bring up. I've actually been pretty good. I think I got all my Canadian stuff out before you joined, so I'm not bringing that stuff up again. The last time someone was like, Jen's overpowering it. I'm like, I'm like a Chinook, man. Do you know what a Chinook is like? It's overpowering.
Chinook.
And that's it for that. That's Mortal it for that.
Chinook.
I know, right? It's like Airbender, but for heated air.
Hold on. Somebody, please. I think Functional or Jen, please at least give me the link so I can post it for YouTube, the YouTube show, right?
Oh, the link, sure.
Yeah. Send it in the Discord DM if you could, please, and thank you. And hey, I have no problem. I wouldn't say that I'm shilling for the Minions, because I'm pretty sure they wouldn't want me.
You absolutely should. I encourage everyone.
Yeah, we've had Sanguine on the show. We've had Sam on the show. on the show.
Sanguine is a much better representation of the Minions.
Oh, I see what you're being self-deprecating. I get it now.
Yes, sir.
I like jokes.
Oh,
I get jokes. I'm not usually this thick-headed. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm just reassuring him, because I actually think you're great on the Minions. So like, don't you worry about it. Like, you
not
you
when I'm
chill.
snoring.
Have you done that? Oh, that's amazing. I used to play.
Fallen asleep on stream.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my first streams of 7 days, I played with another guy who did the streams because I was afraid of my computer exploding. This kid would watch us and just talk to us while we would play, and he would fall asleep like halfway through it. And you know, you're playing a zombie game, and all of a sudden you hear this thing in the back that kind of sounds like. And he just had this unique snore, and so it wasn't bad. It's just you gotta time it right.
Oh, if it adds to the atmosphere, I think that's a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, it does.
You know, but when it kind of stares at you in the face, you gotta do something about it.
Was it on a quiz stream? Because Functional and I were joking about that, because sometimes when it's just you and him and he's just painting his figurine, it's kind of like you're in a trance.
Concentrated mode. Yeah,
it's like you're in a trance. You're just like, wow.
No, it was I don't know. I can't remember. I was sleeping.
You're good.
But it's one of those things that I try to not saw logs on stream. So, but it's you know what, the minions are accepting, and they understand that sometimes just,
they're a good crowd. They're a good crowd.
They are a good crowd. You should go check them out. Actually, I think they're gonna be showing their stream. I don't know what time this stream is, but 10:30 is usually when they.
Yeah. I think it's. I noticed on the Minions earlier that it's switched to Skeptalk because Rect isn't feeling good, which I hope she feels better. I don't know if she's watching this or if she ever does, but if you do, I hope you feel better. But Skeptalk is doing it tonight, and so yeah, it's 5 o'clock my time, so I always see that as 7 o'clock Functional's time. Time zones are a bitch.
7 o'clock? No, Minions are usually on at 11:30, I think, Eastern.
Yeah. So you guys start early on Saturdays?
Do they? I don't know.
Don't know.
We also used to have a game.
Yeah, I am the worst at knowing these things because I'm stupid and I allow YouTube to be the one to notify me when the people I subscribe and want to catch live are going live, and sometimes that a lot of the time it doesn't always work.
I just don't know. Saturday's a little different. I just know that I always follow you guys after
Lords of the Night.
So Lords of the Night for me is 7 o'clock. And I believe that is 9 o'clock. So,
wait, Lords of the Night. Wait, you're talking about Ranting Monkey?
Yeah.
Oh God.
I know, right? Sometimes I have to remind him that Trump was elected because of women, right? Like I realize that he doesn't think that women should. Well, some women shouldn't vote, obviously, and I understand that one. I have this belief that most uneducated people.
Some people shouldn't vote. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it should be a little bit more difficult. Like you have to put a little bit more effort into it, especially given how the U.S. system is. I would respect that, but it's not a man-woman thing because he has to remember that there are a lot of male feminists who are supporting a lot of these.
No. I'm going to cut you off right there and say nobody should vote, just me, and I should decide at all times who is running what.
Right.
All around the world, not just in Canada or the United States, just everywhere.
All I can say to the Trump winning by woman, can we say that he grabbed them by the pussy?
Well,
grabbed them by the voting booth.
They did,
and they let you. Okay,
I think it's because the majority of those women who voted for him realized that he was talking about gold diggers the entire time. Yes. Even for like locker room talk, that he's talking about gold diggers, and you're just like, listen, ladies, he's not talking about going up to women on the street and just grabbing them by their genitalia. He's talking about women who throw themselves at him because he's famous, he has money, and back in his day, he wasn't bad looking. Like, He wasn't. It wasn't great looking. He wasn't the hottie, but like he wasn't bad looking for his time.
Better than George
He had money.
Soros.
Are you
Yes.
kidding me?
Like I'm being realistic here. Like I'm not saying I would throw myself at him because like the guy.
But he wasn't a horrendous
You would,
chud when he was
Jen,
there.
you would if he.
But
He
he
probably would because he's a
Predator.
woman and he's got money and power and yeah.
Jen would totally would. $10,000.
No,
20.
no,
Anyway,
it's not about money. Sometimes it's just like he's got a poor reputation with women for a reason, Like he's got a tight one with this one, hopefully, because
the next gold digger will come along and he'll just go there.
yeah, it's he's got a bad rep with women. So I no.
I don't know. I heard that he made Stormy Daniels watch Shark Week.
Oh shit! He made Stormy Daniels watch Shark Week.
Yeah, the abuse.
That's fucking horrifying. Who the fuck would, dude? Okay, you know what? I'm for the impeachment.
Oh boy.
That's enough.
I would. Who the fuck would
Of
force
course,
somebody
I'm
to
for
watch
the
Shark Week?
impeachment too. It's gonna be Mike Pence. People are gonna freak even more.
Maybe he loves Shark Week. Maybe that's his whole plan.
I've
Maybe,
never
you know
seen
what?
Shark
I
Week,
wouldn't
so-
be surprised if Mike Pence was sitting there watching Shark Week. He's sitting there thinking, yeah, you know what?
No, but can you imagine if like Trump get impeached? It's Mike Pence that's gonna become the president.
Well, yeah.
Well,
Unless they find
they're already
something-
going after Mike Pence.
Yeah, I'm sure they got somebody for him.
There's damn, I don't have the article handy, but I know in the last couple of days they launched some sort of investigation into Pence now. I mean, if there's any all the pieces just sort of coming together, like they're literally trying to have a political coup.
Yeah.
Because next in line is Pelosi. Nobody wants to see the fucking Crypt Keeper as the leader of the free world. Well, it's not gonna happen anyway. It's just funny. It's just funny because it triggers people.
It's not funny. It's scary. Nancy Pelosi?
Nah, I'm not talking about Nancy Pelosi.
Oh.
First, you have to go through Trump, and then to Mike Pence. And by the time Mike Pence is done, well, you have the next general election. So, I'm just saying.
And even still, they don't even have Trump nailed. Like, they're acting like they do, and they don't. Like, this last thing that they did, isn't it, like, kind of a joke?
You need the Senate approval, which is majority Republican, so get screwed. To remove somebody out of office. So.
Like, just no. That's the fucking Crypt Keeper, man.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Crypt Keeper.
You
So
definitely don't want her
Trudeau.
running the country.
Better than Trudeau.
What if Sophie's Choice? No, not going there. Not going there at all.
Everything is better than Trudeau. Fucking Angela Merkel.
Yeah. No.
No.
We're the post-national country, guys. Come on.
You're a
No, because if he was
post-national sex
Merkel, he would actually have balls. He would still be making poor choices for the country, but he would actually have balls.
Well, are you sure?
Yes. Because she still has more balls than he does.
She definitely does.
There you go.
She's got big, hairy Nazi balls.
I'm just saying, like, she might not be the best, but like she definitely has, at least when she's in a room, people are like, oh, she's there. When Trudeau's in a room, they're like, oh, wow,
Who the fuck is this guy?
Like, there's a kid in the room,
Excuse me, waiter.
like he it's really hard to take him seriously. And like, sometimes like there's been the shady shots. I'm sorry, there's been the shady shots. There's been a lot of shady shots. Let's be real, there's been a lot of those shady shots. That one wasn't the first one. It was just the first one that they caught where there was sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, parentheses over.
I don't. Caligula. Whoa.
Woo!
What?
No, it's just getting to that point where my throat's just getting a little raw from talking so long. Have either of you gentlemen seen the new Star Wars?
No.
Okay, good. I should have asked that before I invited you on stream because I don't associate with those people.
Like droids or
no, people who spend money on that shit. Ugh. Those people make me sick. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking around.
Well, I mean, I heard the movie was bad to begin with, so I think I'm gonna wait till I can get it to, like I can watch it. Somebody's like, hey, here's a copy of my digital fucking copy of The Rise of Skywalker. And I might watch. I don't know. It sounds so bad.
Well, I saw the first one and I was like, and I made a prediction like, okay, this was the first one's gonna be meh. The second one's gonna be what the fuck, and the third one's just gonna be no, don't care anymore. And I mean, that's kind of how I view them now. The first one was meh, the second one was bleh, and the new one just like no, don't even care anymore. I mean, I still have hope for the franchise because Mandalorian is so fucking awesome. And there's good content from other properties still being made, even though there's a lot of schlock and shit out there. So I'm not entirely too dejected from the newest one flopping. Not as much as some people are, but yeah, who knows what the future holds.
I'm just hoping that they'll run out of steam in terms of like the tone that they've gone with it. Like at some point between having to cater to China and having to cater to SJWs and then, losing their sales because their main base isn't really going to the major movies that do flop. Well,
it's not just that. It's just it's also bad storytelling. Yeah. And fundamentally, they're all just bad storytelling. And that won't, no matter what intellectual property it's attached to, it just won't resonate with many people. There'll still be people who will lap it up, like because they're dumb or they just have bad taste or they like bad stuff. But if you have good fundamentals, you can succeed. That's why the first one was kind of just meh. It had the good fundamentals, but or decent enough fundamentals. But yes, then they started pushing more of that angle in the second one of like Admiral Gender Studies and Mary Sue becoming more of a Mary Sue. It just But speaking of running out of steam, I'm kind of running out of steam. I too want to get myself some dinner. Anything you've been working on lately, Jen? I know you've been kind of silent on the Wexit broadcasts, but
so for that one, I probably will do this one for Tuesday because I didn't do it for the last two. I don't regret not doing the last one just because, like, honestly,
it's Christmas, Jen.
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't have it in me. Well, you know what? They might not, like, you know what? If it is Christmas, they might not host it anyways. So I don't know. It's up to these guys, because it's us at home on our free time. So yeah, it might not be till next year. So I mean, you know what? If I don't do it, I don't do it. But I have been exploring a new game. So it is kind of a city builder. It's a little silly, but I've been exploring Castle and Kingdoms, and if I get lucky after Christmas, maybe I'll get a new game that's a little bit higher than that one. But I'm kind of wanting to do a stream on that one. The thing is my computer's a piece of shit, so I have to go with what kind of works. And it's been working okay, but I got issues with my technology too. You know.
Clegg, you been doing anything content-wise recently, or just kind of been working and?
I'm working a lot, and I might appear confrontational in the kill stream if you catch my drift.
Ooh.
I called the earlier this week. I called the former the guy that made 8chan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Frederick Brannon guy. Yeah, I dissed him because he became a turncoat and he's making article with Jared Holt now. So yeah, I'm shitting on people on the kill stream. That's my job.
Sounds like fun.
It's really fun.
Adam, I know we touched on it. You're on Minions of the Zoo. That's
Yes.
Tuesday night, right?
Well, Minions runs every night of the week, and I pop in whenever I am able, and they have me. But other than that, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the year goes. You still got a couple of days until 2020, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just so you know, like don't think less of yourself on the show, because you're funny too. Like you do some pretty good jokes on the Minions. So
Yeah, when she was like, "Ask Adam," I'm like, "Adam from like Minions of the Zoo, Adam." She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Hey, I like that guy."
So yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, like I do cheer for you guys a lot. So I don't follow every time, because lately my life has just been like December from hell, actually. December from hell. But you know what? I'm a strong adult woman. I don't need no man. Sorry, just to be a jackass.
Not even your co-host. I see how it is.
Sure, Bob's and Vagine.
But yeah, I gotta go too, because my brother's been waiting for cigarettes, and he's just like in his room, and he's
tapping his foot. He's like, "Hey, come on now! Off your fucking computer. I want my cigarettes."
And I'm doing pretty good. Like I think it's been almost an hour since my last one, and I have a cold coffee that I want to change. So I think it's time for us to wrap.
Yeah, cold coffee.
You can catch.
I know, right?
Snow Mexicans. We haven't talked about next week, but because it's Christmas Eve and Boxing Day, I think we're going to forego Tuesday, Thursday show.
Sure.
We can talk about that a little bit more. But I plan on doing some, just some boring game streams, maybe going through The Witcher. Elwin just bought me Greedfall. I want to do a playthrough of that. And I'll probably be doing that all throughout the week next week, because I'm bored. I'm a Jew, so I don't celebrate dirty Christmas. It's Festivus for the rest of us. I'm not even Jewish, so I don't really celebrate much of anything, and nothing's open. So I'm just going to, hang out and see who wants to join me online.
If you feel lonely this season, call yourself a hooker and just turkey play with her.
No, all I have to do is wait until the weekend, and then my girlfriend's coming home from her parents from Christmas.
I'm talking in general for the people watching.
Oh, for the people watching. Okay, well, for me,
yeah.
Hold on, you gotta get a hooker and then a turkey.
I'm leasing. I'm not renting.
You have to rent a hooker and or play the turkey, stuffing the turkey, like.
But magic. I'm leasing.
You
I'm
could
not
probably
renting.
do it better with a midget.
Magic. I'm leasing, not renting. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Okay, guys. So yes, that was fantastic.
Once again, thank you to our earlier guests who signed off a little bit earlier, and thank you to Ghost Caligula and Mr. Adam, and my host, Genty Rar.
Rars, I know, right? And I'm just
roar, baby, roar.
If there's one goal in my life, it'll be teaching Elwin how to clip things.
Uh-oh. Then we're all in trouble. Anyway, Good night. And
Have a
we're
good
going
night.
to